Welcome back, guys. It's Molotech. Today, I'm bringing you a special video on helium. We have a guest, Nik Hawks, aka the Gristle King. Some of you may know him already. If you don't, congrats, you've just found one of the most active members in the helium community. When people ask how we started getting into cryptocurrency, we all have our own stories. Some of you may have started mining Bitcoins way back in the day with one of your laptops, or you may have heard from one of the YouTubers saying helium is the most profitable mining projects, or maybe you read in the news saying one of the big companies like Dish Network just partnered with helium to deliver people's network. All of these are cool, good stories to tell later on down the road. So today, I want to share one of the most inspiring helium stories I've heard. Let's find out how and why Nik Hawks got into helium. And by the way, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like our videos.
Okay, my name is Nik Hawks. I'm known as the Gristle King. I've been working in the helium community since I started doing helium stuff September 2020. Started writing a blog. That blog got picked up on Reddit. People got super excited about it. I started a helium consulting business, ended up helping thousands of people on the internet through the Gristle King blog and through YouTube videos and all the rest of that. And then at the end of 2021, the helium community voted me the most valuable member, community member in helium, which was a surprise to me, but super heartening. And so at this point, mostly what I do is help other people understand helium at a bunch of different levels, and helium is super complex. So it's a nice thing to be doing, helping people understand this pretty radical environment.
You know, I visited your YouTube channel, right? I love your YouTube channel. We actually started our YouTube channel around the same time. I saw you're doing some paragliding, and you're able to somehow implement helium into this hobby. So can you explain a little bit on that, how that works?
Yeah, it's funny. We started our YouTubes at the same time, and then I didn't do anything with mine for 6 months or something. And you in the meantime did all the things that I just talked about. I was like, oh, you be successful as you just keep going. You just put stuff out there. You figure it out as you go. But I got into helium from paragliding. So I'm an amateur paraglider. It's my hobby is flying these things. And in August of 19, it was 2020. There's a well-known paraglider in the community. There's not that many of us in the world. There's, I don't know, 100,000, 150,000 of us. There's only 5,000 in the US. And one of these guys disappeared. He was doing what we call a cross-country flight. So paragliding in very general terms, you launch off a mountain, you find a thermal, you go up in that thermal, just like you see a bird turning in the sky going up, you're riding rising air. And then at the top of that air column, when the air cools enough that it's no longer rising, you go and glide until you find another thermal. So, and the thermals are all invisible. It's kind of like chess in the sky. You're constantly thinking and figuring out where the next thermal is going to be and where you can glide to. A paraglider can go a couple hundred miles. So I think the record in the US right now is 250, 230 miles on a paraglider. And on this particular day in August, this guy was trying to set a record. He disappeared at 14,000 feet, I think was his last ping on GPS, and we lost him. It was over the desert in Nevada. So a giant search effort was spun up. He was a really well-known guy, really well-liked. And people flew in from all over the world. People from all over the world lent their talents, whether that was engineering or satellite imagery or numbers crunching, machine learning, all that stuff on the ground. We had hunters, hikers, bikers, all kinds of folks, going in ATVs trying to find this guy. I flew up there in a small plane with a buddy, and we spent a couple days getting bumped around over the desert. It's really bumpy air up there because the ground is so superheated. It's constantly sending up these sharp currents of air. Really unpleasant flying. We, spent a couple days flying looking for this guy. Didn't find him. It took 30 days for probably a couple thousand people to find this dude. And he had at the time what was considered the gold standard in tracking for paragliders, which was a GPS tracker and a cell phone. Gold standard didn't work. Right? He was dead when he hit the ground, so it didn't matter to him, but it mattered to all of us. And on that flight up there and the flight back to go search for him, me and my buddy, the other pilot, were talking about what we would want for us to not have the same thing happen. All right? You can't avoid accidents, but you can certainly increase your percentage or your likelihood of being found. And through that, I found LoRa. I didn't know much about the LoRa side before this. And then I stumbled on helium, and I'd been exposed to cryptocurrency before, so I knew about it. I knew crypto wasn't bad. I knew crypto could be awesome. And then I started putting it together. And so that was kind of took me full circle. It took actually right about a year for me to put that whole project together. The following October, so a year and a month later, I set up the tracking for the biggest paragliding race in the US, maybe the second biggest. One of the biggest paragliding races in the US was up in Utah in this giant valley called the Sevier Valley. And I put a couple hotspots up on high points. and I tracked a couple hundred paragliders. I didn't have a couple hundred trackers. There's a couple hundred paragliders there, and I tracked, I think we had 50, yeah, whatever it was. We had a ton of different trackers on paragliders, and we used the Helium network to track paragliders as they did races or just regular cross country. So it's kind of a full circle thing. And then I did another race, I think a month later, and now the kind of offer is on for any paragliding organization, a race that wants to use Helium. I'll help them however I can to help track their guys and give them that third of it, and their girls, give them that third way of being found. So that's the story.
Wow, that's like I've heard so many Helium like real world usage stories, but that's definitely the best one I've heard so far. That's awesome.
Super fun.
Just to get an idea, so now like when you go paragliding, you just set up these Helium hotspots, or are these like a package forwarders or?
Yeah, here in Southern California, because we have so many Helium hotspots everywhere, I don't need to set up a specific hotspot to track any flight in the local area that I fly. If I go to a more remote location, I'll bring along an off-grid hotspot and just set that up. And as long as that thing has cell coverage, then it can basically it can cover with LoRa all the hotspots around it. I always have a little tracker on me. The trackers look like this. So they're pretty small. This is a Oyster. This company that makes them is called Lone Star, and Lone Star is one of the first companies that worked with Helium to make it really easy to see the information that Helium provides. Because one of the things you see as you start to go into the sensor side of things is that visualizing, like getting the data into a way that we can see and visualize and use for the normal person is pretty difficult, right? It's fine for big industries who are used to this stuff, but for regular folks like us, it's still pretty difficult to do that. So Lone Star tracking makes that super easy. I always have that thing in my bag when I go flying. I usually have a couple extra in the car, and if people want them, I'll say, yeah, just chuck this in your bag and fly with it today and give it back to me at the end of the day. And if you don't give it back, well, I can track you down.
That's funny. Yeah. So like how far can they go before, it runs out of the range from this either package forwarder or a hotspot?
Yeah, it's basically line of sight. So I think up in Utah, our longest distance was something like 80 miles. It might've been 72.
Wow.
But pretty long. I mean, paragliders are up high. We're up at 10,000, 14,000. Legal limit is 18,000 feet. So you can have a clear line of sight a really long way. And then the battery on those things, you can set that specific tracker, that particular tracker, to ping every 10 minutes, every 5 minutes, every 30 seconds, kind of what you want. If it's pinging every 10 minutes and then it stops pinging after it's been still for a while, the batteries can last 3 years. If it's pinging every 5 seconds, it's like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And it's just 3 AAA batteries.
Man, you go up to like 18,000. Like I've done some skydiving before. Like do you actually for paragliding, do you wear a mask, oxygen? Do you bring oxygen up when you go up that high?
Yeah, the guys who fly, I think above 15, is it required? I should probably know that. We don't fly that high around here, but up in Idaho, up in Utah, they'll fly that high routinely, and yeah, they'll bring oxygen with them for sure.
I see. So like another question, I'm curious, right? Because never done paragliding. If you go out for like 200 miles, or maybe 150 miles on a paraglider, how do you get back? Because you don't know where you're gonna end up.
Like I haven't gone that distance. I mean, that's kind of one of the fun things about paragliding is you launch one place, you land another, and then you got to figure out how to get back. You can hitchhike, you can have, we call them chase or retrieve vehicles. You can arrange with your buddies to be driving after you. But a lot of the fun in it is you land in some farmer's field, and then you've got to figure out how to get back. And cell phones have made that way easier, and trackers and GPS stuff have made that way easier for people to find you. But that's still kind of some of the best stories I've heard in paragliding is that, people were trying to set records. They land in some, the middle of Texas or Kansas or wherever, Montana, and some farmer comes up and is like, what is that thing? And they get to hang out and have a meal and wait for their buddies to come pick them up. It's a super cool sport in that way.
Nice. That's awesome. Maybe I'll get into it one day.
Yeah, come on.
I heard you have your own consulting service, and so can you give more detail on that, and what type of stuff do you provide?
Totally. Yeah, I was the first Helium consultant. Helium kind of showcased me as one of the consultants, or a Helium consultant early in 2020. And so what I do now is I do one-on-one stuff. So if you want to hire me for an hour and a half, we go through the whole Helium system and how it'll work specifically for your location. So we talk about your roof, your house, your places, how to use all the different tools and really dial you in quickly, because it can take a long time to learn about Helium if you don't know what you're doing. And then the second thing is I've got a troubleshooting service. So if your hotspot's having problems, you can't fix it on the internet, I'll connect you with one of my techs that'll just get on the phone with you and walk you through, make sure your router settings are good. And that, like, the little stuff that we don't know as normal people to fix is fixed. And then the third thing I've got that's probably the most appropriate for most people is a couple different courses on Helium. Got the Helium Basic course and the Helium Vision Masterclass. And between those two, you can learn all that you need to know about doing a great deployment in the world of Helium. So Helium Basic course was just designed to tell people from kind of soup to nuts how the Helium ecosystem works, how they can fit into it, and go down into the, from strategy to tactics, tools, and details. And then Helium Vision Masterclass is just teaching people how to use that super powerful tool to understand and find the best location possible, because location is where we earn most of our money. And, knowing how to find the best location is really valuable. So that's how I do it.
Okay, great. Yeah. And you fly out to people to do on-site consulting too? Yeah.
Yep, I'll do on-site consulting. Typically, that's for larger fleets. So I'll go out and spend a couple days with our team and make sure I drive around and show them how to do the deployments the right way. Usually, there's something people are missing because Helium is so complex. It could be a small thing, it could be a big thing. But from the on-sites that I've done, I'll walk in and they'll be like, I think one of them was they'd ordered 300 Nebras. And they're like, man, none of these things work. We've had to fix all of them. It's like, oh, no, they work. You just got to tighten every one of them. You got to open them up and tighten them. They rushed them out of the factory. They're trying to get them out so fast that they weren't all tight. And so little stuff like that, where they realize like, oh, it's not us. It's just the environment that we're in. It's this whole ecosystem is super fast. That really helped them make their workflow really smooth. So it's like, all right, they come in, we open them up, we tighten these 3 things, we close them back up, we ship them out, they go to their place. And that's good. And then sometimes they just don't know what to look for at all. So it's showing them, hey, this thing called Helium Vision exists. This thing called Hotspotty exists. Helium Tracker exists. HeliumStatus.io exists. Like, a lot of people don't know even to look for the thing. And so once you show them the basic stuff to look for, it just really accelerates their learning and their earning.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video today. I will have Nik's information linked in the description below. If you want more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like our videos. This is Mototech. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.